welcome you all here today. So many of you. We're so happy to see everyone, especially our first-year Master Gardeners. Very welcome to you all. A couple of little housekeeping things first. If you will please silence your phones if you haven't done so already. And for new people, restrooms. The ladies is straight out the door here. The gentleman is down in the bar. So you go all the way down the hall to find the gentleman's restroom. Appropriate enough. All right, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Gail, and she's going to introduce our speaker today. Thank you.
It is our really great pleasure to welcome Janet Carson to our meeting today. I know many of you have followed her on Planet Janet. You may have read some of her books. She is a very well recognized gardener, horticulturist in Arkansas. Everyone looks to her as the garden guru. We want to thank her for taking time from her busy schedule, not only doing her own gardening, her writing about gardening, but also her travels. We'll welcome you today, Janet.
Thank you, and welcome to the new class. You're going to love this group. So Garland County is a wonderful group of Master Gardener volunteers. Give yourselves a hand. I think you were the first group to start back doing in-person training after we had to take that hiatus. So I'm very glad that you're doing that. But you know, this has not been our best gardening season. This past winter has been a disaster. But I think if you look around at your gardens, I'm a little bit pleased to see some things. That's actually my encore azaleas coming out. I thought they were dead as a doornail. But they're starting to grow. But there's a lot of things that are not that I'm sad about too. But what you need to do now is just sort of take inventory of what's out there. You know, people keep saying, is global warming real? Well, we've seen lots of examples of things that are proving that it is. And it's not just happening here. But why did we have so much damage this year? You know, if you think back to 2 years ago, at least in central Arkansas, we had about 17 inches of snow. And it got really, really cold. But the snow was a very good thing. Because the snow covered things, it was insulating them, and as it melted, it slowly gave moisture back into the ground. This year, if you remember back to October, we had one of our earliest freezes. And you know, everybody said, oh, the fall color is going to be terrible. That was so early. Well, then it warmed up. And spring came back after that. And so plants started growing again. And we actually had one of the prettiest and longest lasting fall colors we've had in years. But because it stayed so mild so late, plants did not gradually start to harden off. And if you look at the weeks preceding December 22nd, we were in the 50s and 60s all of those periods of time. I think the lows got to 40 something. And then overnight we went from 52 degrees to 10 degrees. And it stayed below freezing for 3 days. And some of our gardens may not have been as moist as we would have liked. So the combination of those things devastated a lot of plants around Arkansas. Now, I'm telling you, our old grandmother, Mother Nature, is no longer with us. I think we have to get out there and our weather is not, you can't say, well, this is typical Arkansas weather. You know, what's typical Arkansas weather is a roller coaster ride. We don't know what to expect. But you know, I was just in Hawaii last week. And we had a trip to Mauna Kea, the top point of the island, and we had to cancel it because of snow. They had the roads blocked. You can't see snow falling in that bottom picture, but that was Disneyland in California, and they had snow. Last year, I was in Phoenix. Phoenix is known as one of the driest places in the country. And it rained every day we were there and we saw snow. So, I mean, it's happening everywhere. The weather is just changing. And if you'll think back, you know, in Arkansas we used to be 6, 7, and 8 zones. The northern tier was 6, which is a low of about -10. Central Arkansas could get to 0, which was a 7 zone. And South Arkansas was 8, which was a low of 15. And then USDA changed it because our temperatures were getting milder. Our winters were not as cold. So everybody started planting things further up. And a lot of these plants that were marginal were surviving. And so we planted more of those things. And now we're seeing some issues. So here's the results of the winter cold. How many of you have loropetalum? Now I will tell you, I've seen some loropetalums that I think are dead as doornails. But I also saw some blooms on loropetalum this past week as well. Now, I can say that's a good thing, but it might be a bad thing too. I had a giant loropetalum 2 years ago when we had the freeze. And it leafed out, it bloomed, and in July it died. But it died from where the snow line ended because the top parts had sap in them and that cracked. So if you go and look at your plants and there's split bark, those branches could possibly die for you in June and July when it gets hot. So we're not saying that once it starts growing, you're out of the woods, but we can always hope. The bottom picture there is flowering kale and flowering cabbage. You know, the winter annuals looked horrible. The pansies are just now rebounding and starting to bloom, and in a month we're going to pull them and plant something else. And then that's that encore azalea there on the left that I showed that very first picture of. That's the same plant, but the new growth is coming, okay? Now, there are some casualties. That plant at the top picture there, that's my rosemary, and it's been in the ground for probably 15 years. It was 4 feet across. It is dead as a doornail. And I do not think it will come back from the root system. It's possible, but I doubt it. For the last 4 years, I've been growing an edible olive tree on my deck. It survived the snow 2 years ago, dead as a doornail. I had a bay leaf tree that you see there in the bottom middle picture there. That was my bay tree. It was at least 6 feet tall, dead as a doornail. So, and I don't think they're going to come back even from the root system, but there's a possibility. So I'm not pruning them yet. But not everything is lost. Ground covers, even monkey grass got hit this year. But they're starting to rebound. That was a juga there on the right. It's already starting to even bloom. That picture down there at the bottom left, that's an azalea bush in my neighborhood. There's no damage hardly at all. Some of the leaves got damaged. So the older varieties of azaleas, I think, are going to bloom just fine. It's the newer, like the encore types. I think we'll have a few blooms, but I don't think we'll have many, okay? And then you see that's some of the azaleas growing back. The deciduous azaleas, they're fine. No damage whatsoever. Now that's saying we don't have a hard freeze this coming weekend and early Monday because it's supposed to get down into the upper 20s again. Now it depends on, we've had plenty of moisture, so that's good. We also have to see how much wind movement we have. So if we have a really, really cold night and it's still, we tend to have more damage than if we have an overcast, windy night. Even if the temperatures get low, that wind movement can help. That's why in orchards, sometimes these commercial orchards rent a helicopter to come hover over and move the air around to keep the flowers from freezing. So you could go out with your fan and turn it on. That might work. So I do think there's going to have to be some corrective pruning. Even on those encores that are leafing back out, I'm afraid what we're going to see is a lot of top growth and not a lot of internal growth. So we're going to have to come in and do some thinning cuts. You're going to have, but don't just use an electric hedge trimmer and turn them into boxes, okay? Selective thinning so that you get a nice fullness regrowing back. If you have big leaf hydrangeas, I think they're dead to the ground. At least everything I've seen is dead to the ground. And if they are, you're going to just have to cut the tops back. You're not going to have many blooms unless you have the reblooming kind. The plant, you can't see it very well with that picture, I'm sorry, but on the brown parts that you see, the green in the center is a boxwood. Boxwood was fine, no damage at all. But on both sides of it, I have 2 Sasanqua camellias that I think are original to my house, which was built in the late 70s. I think they're dead, or I think they're dead way back. They lost every leaf, the flower buds are all dead, and I don't see any new movement. But just because it's not growing right now doesn't mean it's not going to. So still be patient. Some plants are a little slow to start growing in the spring. Camellias do their things when it's cooler, usually in the fall they start putting on new growth, and so I'm still keeping my fingers crossed, but I'm not going to bet the farm on it. Crepe myrtles could still have damage, but crepe myrtles are one of the last plants to start growing in your gardens anyway. So just keep being patient. You know, find something else to do during the day instead of going and looking at your plants and worrying over them. So when you do prune, only prune what's needed, but you do have some plants that are going to need it. If you've got deciduous plants that are starting to leaf out, you kind of know where the new growth is coming. And if you have dead tips, start taking the dead tips off. If you know where the damage is, go ahead and do it. If you've got spring blooming shrubs, like azaleas, forsythias, which bloomed this year but not as well, let them finish their bloom cycle and then do the pruning. Enjoy every potential flower you might get. Corrective pruning to thicken the plants back up, but again, knowing which season. So I mentioned the hydrangeas. Big leaf hydrangeas, which are the pink and blue ones, and oak leaf hydrangeas are and gardenias are 3 plants that don't follow the rules. They bloom in the summer, but they set their flower buds at the end of the season. So if we prune them too much now, or if Mother Nature pruned them for us, then they're not going to have many blooms on them this season because they don't bloom on the new growth. If you're growing the smooth hydrangeas, the Annabelles, or you're growing the panicle hydrangeas, those plants are leafing out. I have not seen much damage on those. But if they need to be shortened or thinned, now is the time to do it. Anything that blooms in the summer on the new growth should be pruned now as new growth is beginning, okay? And so here's some examples. This is what I've already seen some people doing, and that's an older azalea bush. That's just making a meatball in your yard. You know, it would be so much better is to lower them by sections so that you stagger the cut so that it doesn't have that all new growth on the outside, okay? Because that means next year all the flowers will be on the outside. When you're pruning, you can actually direct where you want that plant to grow. So if you see you've got too many branches in here, cutting at that branch collar is where you want to prune. But if there's a bud growing in the direction that you need it to grow, prune right above that bud, and that will direct where that new branch is going to go. So you can kind of determine how it's going to fill back in. Our butterfly bushes or buddleias, which is what this one is, they're leafing back out. But even if they don't get winter damaged, which they did this year, if they don't get, you want to still prune them hard every year. Because if you don't prune a buddleia, it gets huge, and where are the flowers? On the new growth. So if you don't prune, you don't have as many flowers. And I don't like to see these big woody stalks. It's a cane producing plant. So cane producing plants, you want to take out the woodier stalks at the soil line, and that's going to encourage another more tender branch to get growing. If you just cut it back to all woody stalks, you're going to get sprouts on those woody stalks. So you like that growth to come from the bottom. Yes?
What about the pugster? The new ones?
All of them. Because the pugster is by far a much smaller variety of buddleia. But if you don't prune it back, it only grows to a certain height. And so if you don't have a lot of new growth, you don't rejuvenate it, it's not going to flower as well or have as much growth. I'd prune it back within an inch or 2 of the ground and get it started over. Okay, here's our hydrangeas. Now, I had somebody that emailed me yesterday. I mean, my column is just overflowing with questions these days. But they wanted to know if they should get out and protect these buds on their hydrangeas for this upcoming cold weather. They're dead. So there's no point in protecting them. They're not coming back. Some years we see them sprouting here on the tips of the branches. I'm not seeing that anywhere in central Arkansas. If you've got one, congratulations. But most of the new growth is coming down here at the soil line. So just start cutting that off. Now you may want to wait till after this weekend is over. If not, if you've got new growth coming, and it's tender new growth on perennials or low-growing shrubs, you can cover it. And so the way to cover is just to get a cardboard box that's big enough to put over the top of it, put the flaps out, put a rock on it, and leave it covered till the cold is over. But don't get out there with a Walmart bag and cover it. That's not helping at all. Ornamental grasses. Now, if you have ornamental grasses in your yard, they need to be cut back every year. You know, if you get this look up here at the top, which I call the green donut look, that's a pampas grass that was never cut back. When I would teach classes on pruning, I'd say all ornamental grasses need to be pruned every year. And I'd have people say, but I've never pruned my pampas grass. Well, what happens to all that dead growth? It goes back into the crown of the plant and eventually rots. And you end up killing the crown of the plant, and you have a green circle of foliage and never any plumes. Have you ever dug up a pampas grass? You need a backhoe. I'm not kidding, it's tough. So get in there, but right now, because we have had mild days, especially with some of the smaller ornamental grasses, there may be some new growth coming. So you don't want to get in there and weed eat or chainsaw to the ground and cut the new growth that's coming up. It's not going to kill the new growth coming up, but you're going to have cut edges then on the foliage, which you don't want. And there's that lovely monkey grass. Now, monkey grass is not a true grass. It's in the lily family. That's why another common name for it is lily turf. But monkey grass or liriope did take a hit this year. New growth is coming. So pull back the old growth and see how tall it's come and selectively thin out the old growth to freshen it up. And this is Ground Covers, Arkansas this year. There's the monkey grass on the left, mondo grass on the right, and at the bottom is either Asiatic jasmine, which I'm not sure is going to come back, or Vinca minor, which is coming back. I also have Confederate jasmine, that's a vine. I'm not sure it's coming back either. So, but start cutting it back and let it come. You might wait until Tuesday before you do that, just to leave that dead growth. And that's the thing, folks. If we have this damage, which we did in December, there were people out pruning January 1 because they didn't like the look of the dead. That is just a buffer. It's extra protection from those plants for the rest of the winter. So if you haven't pruned, don't. Let it wait a few more days, get past this, and we can always hope it's our last cold snap. But we don't know the way things are going, what's going to happen. Now, there are some people who just don't know how to prune. That top picture is crepe myrtles, and I took that 2 weeks ago. They just did it. And you want to go, why? You know, why would you plant that? The bottom two, I think second to crepe myrtle is Bradford butchering. You know, people, those are Bradford pear trees. Now, I am not a fan of Bradford pears. I think they're overplanted. I think they're invasive. In fact, when we were flying in Monday, and coming in from wherever we were coming from, you could look down and there was a sea of white, and that was Bradford pears blooming. And it's not Bradfords. We collectively call all ornamental pear trees Bradfords, but they're all Pyrus caloriana. They're a calorie pear. The Bradfords were bred to be sterile, which they're not, fire blight resistant, which they're not, and then also having no thorns. And they don't have thorns on a Bradford, but the seedlings of a Bradford can have some killer thorns on them. So if you were going to do Bradford pear pruning, I'd say a chainsaw to the ground. But if you were going to prune them, you know, what is the 2 times a year that Bradford pears are pretty? In the spring when they bloom, and in the fall with the red foliage. So you would treat it like a spring blooming plant and prune it after it flowers. So these lovely people planted them and lose the flowers because they've already pruned them. And by pruning them like that, they're actually going to be having more problems than less. Because one of the biggest issues with the Bradford pear is that it has such a dense growth habit and it's top heavy. So every time the wind blows, a branch falls somewhere. When they prune like this, they make it more dense and more susceptible to storm damage. So again, chainsaw to the ground is your best bet. So as if you are pruning trees, and a lot of times I tell people that homeowners should not prune their own shade trees. Now, small ornamental trees, shrubs, fruit trees, blueberry bushes, yes, prune them yourself. But big trees, I would hire somebody. You know, one day I was going to Jonesboro to do a program, and it was after a bad ice storm, and there was a gentleman, it's always a man, and he had his pulled up in his yard to the tree. He had a stepladder in the bed of his pickup truck, and he was on the top rung with a chainsaw. An accident waiting to happen. And, and a lot of times you think you know better, but I hire tree services to prune my trees. And they are thrilled to death that I stay with them the entire time they're there. Because I want to tell them what I want done. Because you'll still see in the newspaper or in their ads, you'll still see topping of trees. Topping of trees has not been a recommended practice for 40 years. Topping ruins the structure of the tree. So I hire them and I say, I want that branch taken out. And I want that branch taken out. And they'll go, yes, Miss Carson, go inside. But so if you do it properly, so what you want to do is you see on a tree where the branch is, pretend there's a branch there. There's concentric rings about where that branch is attached to the limb. That's called the branch collar. So prune at that, because that's where there's more hormones. And so a tree or a plant of any sort doesn't heal like we do. Like I can cut my hand today, and next week you'll never know I had a cut. It covers up. A plant simply covers the wound. It doesn't heal. So this is year 1. This is year 2. See that rolled edge? That's called the callus formation. It's rolling over. And by year 3 or 4, you don't even see it. So go look at your big shade trees in your yard, and you'll see a little dot here and there. And that's where those low branches were attached. So if you do it at the right place, you're not going to have any long-term ramifications. If you leave a stump like this, and it decays, it goes all the way into the heartwood of the tree. So know what you want when you're hiring a tree service. Now, if you do have some really badly damaged plants, this is one of the things I've been hearing a lot of gardeners say. They've got gardenias, Indian hawthorns, they've got loropetalums, that this is the second time they've had major damage. And last time they waited and they regrew, they don't want to wait anymore. So if you decided you don't have the patience to do that, dig them up and plant something else. And notice I said something else. A lot of people last time even planted the same thing. And so if it had damage once before, chances are it's going to have damage again. So try something else. Now, if you do have the patience to let them grow back in, or you're cheap, like me, and I'm going to wait and see if they're going to grow, start filling in, because you don't want to look at this tiny landscape with nothing out there. So for the summer, when you move your houseplants outside, put them in the garden. They'll get the benefit of the sprinkler system too if you have one. If you have some big pots, stick them out there. Buy some tropicals, buy some annuals, but do some fill for this year so that you have something to look at and people don't drive by and say, that's a master gardener's yard. But that way you'll have a little bit of time for those plants to grow back in. And we might also find availability is lacking. Now, I talked to quite a few nurseries a month ago, and they said except for their giant plants, they were able to move everything inside to a greenhouse. So they were going to have pretty good availability this spring. So let's hope that's the case. But think back to even 2 years ago. There are so many yards that need plants, and so many people that are going to be buying them. If there are specific things you want, you may want to put your orders in now to get what you want, because it's going to be a madhouse. It's going to be another record year at the nurseries. So when you are choosing plants, think about what you're growing. The first question is always, what's the maximum size? They all look cute in that gallon pot, and then they grow up. Do you have sun or shade? And you may have the transitional yard now. You may have had a shady yard, and now you have a sunny yard. So work within the parameters of your own landscape. Put together plants that need the same kind of conditions. You don't want a drought-tolerant plant next to one that needs a ton of water, or one of them's not going to be happy. And then allow plants to grow. I mean, a lot of times, that's one of my pet peeves with some landscape designers, is when they get done doing an installation, it looks like that garden has been there for 15 years. What's it going to look like in 5? It needs to be a young garden right now, but give those plants room to grow and fill into where they need to be. As master gardeners in particular, we always want the newest and the best. So that's the loropetalum at my house that I was supposed to be 5 feet tall at maturity, and it was 15 feet tall. And that was the one that died, and it died from that point up. And I just put a bottle tree there now. I don't have it back. But that's a plant we saw in Hawaii. When we pulled in, I said, is that an artificial plant? That's called a green jade vine. We saw it everywhere. So everybody's going, can we grow that at home? No, we don't live in Hawaii. We can grow it for the summer, but it's not going to survive the winter outside. A lot of people are moving into native plants. You know, there's a lot of people that are doing that. Think about what you're using with natives. Not all natives fit in every landscape. You've got to find some that need sun or shade, and then some people want more evergreens, and there's a lot of them that are more deciduous. But this planting right down here at the bottom, this was, that's Itea in the center, but do y'all know this little plant that's on the edge? It's called rush or equisetum or horsetail. It is one of the most invasive plants you're going to find. And so pretty soon that's going to be an equisetum garden and not, so make sure they're compatible with it. Whether they're native or non-native, make sure they are registered for sun or shade, wet or dry, or for your zone. I think the #1 mistake of any landscaping is putting the wrong plant in the wrong location or trying to grow something that doesn't do well here. I can't tell you how many times in my career people would say, where's the best location for a Colorado blue spruce? The answer is
Colorado.
You know, and then as soon as I say that, they go, well, my neighbor's had one for 50 years and it's doing great. There's always going to be the exception, but why not put something in that is more adaptable to your location? Have you been to Home Depot or Walmart lately? I have not, so I don't know that for sure it's there, but I'm guessing it is. Because 2 weeks ago it was. Tomatoes are for sale. Basil is for sale. Now, you are master gardeners, so you know this is not the time to plant tomatoes. But there are a lot of gardeners out there, or would-be gardeners out there, that if they walk into a store and they see tomatoes for sale, what's the message? It's time to plant tomatoes. Well, they're selling them so they can sell them to you 3 times. So plant the right plant at the right location and you'll have better success. And you know, one of the things that I've always said is that one of the reasons we want to train people is that, you know, there's a lot of people that if they plant the wrong plant in the wrong location, or tomatoes in February, and they die, what's the answer? It's not that I got the wrong plant. It's I don't have a green thumb. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, if I touch it, it dies. I do not have a green thumb. There's always a plant that will survive in that situation. You just have to pick the right one and know when to do it. And be sure you can plant, maintain what you plant. This is true of your Master Gardener projects as well. You know, it sounds really easy in the spring. We are really gung-ho to be out there in the garden in the spring. And then July rolls around and it's 5,000 degrees and we want to stay inside. Those plants still have to be maintained. So start small and build on your success. Now the one on the left is a picture I took on one of our garden trips years ago to New Zealand. And 3 people took care of that garden. And that's just a fourth of the garden. But they picked plants that would fit their location, would take care of themselves. And so they had very little maintenance. Now the one on the right, they couldn't afford curtains. So that's but I mean, kind of a boring landscape, gotta say. You know, people often say, well, I'm gonna have a lawn. In fact, I had a neighbor that they took out 6 trees because he wanted grass. And that's all they have in their yard is grass. Lawns are not low maintenance. You have to water, you have to mow them every week, you have to do a lot of maintenance. And if you have shade, that's a very good thing in the summer in Arkansas. So, you know, why not embrace the shade and put in moss? Moss is a much better way, I think, to garden in the shade than trying to grow grass or removing your trees. And in Arkansas, you cannot garden in the summer without some supplemental watering. Now, I know there are some of you that live in Hot Springs Village that have a yard full of rocks. And you still have some plants in those rocks that need some establishment. And even if you're planting the most drought-tolerant plants, you do have to water the first year to get them established. But you know, water is critical. Know how much water your yard needs. You probably can't see it, but this was a frosty morning in my neighbors hate to see me drive by with a camera. But the sprinkler system was going on. It had just rained. The temperatures were well below freezing. they're creating frost or ice all over their yard. You know, that's one of my pet peeves, is to see it pouring down rain and the sprinklers going off. So be sure that you monitor how much water you're putting out. All roses need to be pruned now. If you have not pruned your roses after Tuesday, go out and prune them. And they need to be pruned. Even your knockouts or your shrub roses, if they're not pruned, they are not going to flower as well, and you're going to have more problems with diseases. So, no, a good landscape is very simple to do if you choose the right plants for the right location. If you know the mature size of the plants that you're putting in, and you give them time to reach that size. You know, that's another thing I didn't mention. When you go out to buy a plant for replacement, a lot of people are going to be tempted to buy the biggest plant they can find. Smaller plants are cheaper, but they also get established more quickly, and you'll actually catch up to those larger plants more quickly. For plants that don't have a lot of needs, I don't want to spray every week, so I don't have hybrid tea roses. I don't have red top petunias because they get disease issues. Know how to maintain what you're planting. Some things you can stick in the ground and leave them alone, but those are few and far between. You do have to do a little bit of maintenance usually. Watch the weather, pray, keep your fingers crossed, and sometimes we can do some protection with covering, but large plants, trees, you know, I did try to cover a few things December 21st, but it was so windy, my coverings were the other part of the yard the next day, so that can be difficult. And like I said, use some temporary fillers if you need to get them through the summer. And for those of you who are new master gardeners, now that you are master gardeners, this is what your yard will look like next year. And I don't know why you're laughing, it's true. Okay, are there any questions? I know there's been so many questions about winter damage, but I hope we've covered a lot of that. Yes?
I have a question about ornamental grass. I saw in one video that the center dies out, and after they trimmed it, they dug up the center and put soil there, and they said that the clump would fill in the center that had died out.
It'll take you a few years for that to happen, but as I said, if you try to dig out the center of a pampas grass, you need a jackhammer to get in there and really, I mean, I'm not joking, it is very difficult to do. Now, a smaller ornamental grass, that is more doable, but for the big ones, it's tough. And something that you'll always hear somebody ask or see, and some neighbor will do it, burning off the old growth. You know, in Little Rock, we have a burn ban, you can't do it, but I've had people that have done it in the past. It works very well. You know, somebody accidentally sets their lawn on fire and it grows back prettier than everybody else in the neighborhood, so the blowtorches come out to get out there. But the problem is you have to stand there and watch, because you don't want it to catch other things on fire. And if you have a sprinkler system, especially a drip irrigation system, it can melt it. So I don't recommend burning, but cutting back is good. And good luck digging the crown out.
Do I need a mic?
I have a miscanthus, and we cut it back, a couple of weeks ago. But usually this time of year, you see the little green coming up there. There's like one little spike.
But you know, miscanthus is even hardy up into Minnesota. So I would be really surprised if it's totally dead. Just be patient. I think some things are slower than others. You know, we've also had a much earlier spring than usual. You know, I was looking back at my pictures from last year, because I date everything as well. And when things bloomed last year and when they're blooming this year has been almost a month different. So just be patient a little bit longer. And the thing is, if it doesn't grow back, there's nothing we can do about it. I mean, I guess I could come touch it, and that might make it stop.
Europe seems to have a different approach to topping trees. You'll go into lots of places and they do all that, and that's just a different approach.
Well, but they do it every year. It's called pollarding. In fact, if you go to Italy, or if you go to even some places in England, but Italy in particular, they even sell pollarded trees. And pollarding, what they do is they start a tree, and it's usually a relative of a sycamore called a plane tree, and they grow the trunk up, and then they top it, and they grow branches laterally, that they have a system of wires that they grow, and they use those as living covers. you know, like a awning or whatever, and they put them out there. But every year, they come back and do it. So it looks like our butchered crepe myrtles in our winters, those trees look like that in the summer, but they come back and do that every year to keep them as hedges or living fences. But if you let them go, then you're going to have issues. And the problem with pollarding, if you let it go, is you've just weakened the structure of the tree and it's not going to grow back strong. So if you didn't do any pollarding for 5 years, it's going to start falling apart.
Janet, what about that Sasanqua camellia that you said you have? I have one that was huge, and it was just coming back from the fridge 2 years ago, but this time I have a few branches that have some green on them. But should I prune that now?
I would say again, wait a few, I'm waiting still a little longer. My japonicas have never had damage. I mean, I've lost a few flowers, but I've never lost leaves. They are nude. I mean, I have 2 or 3 leaves on the whole plant, but I don't see any signs of new buds. Even if they do start leafing out, we're gonna have to prune them back. So again, I would wait just a few more weeks. Now, just in general, if you've got any spring blooming plants, azaleas, camellias, and some of you have a lot more patience than I do, and you're still waiting for them to start growing in June, by June the 15th, you want all of your spring plants pruned. Because when do spring blooming plants set their flower buds? Usually late August, September, early October. So you say, well, why can't I prune until then? What happens in July in Arkansas? It gets hot and dry. So we're not getting a lot of plant recovery. So you want to prune with enough time for those plants to grow back so they have something to set flower buds on. So I'm saying try to get it pruned probably this year before June 1st if they need it. And that's going to help them thicken up.
Janet, I have 2 gardenias that I got from my friend Nancy Griskelis, who has them in the ground. Mine are in the pots. What is the future for either one, the ones in the ground or in the pots? Because mine look dead as a doornail.
Well, mine are starting to leaf out. Now, in the ground, they're going to be hardier than in a pot. And the reason for that is that the soil typically doesn't get as cold down deep because we're not usually that cold for that long. But in a container, that soil is going to get a lot colder, especially the smaller the container is. In the past, what I have done, which I didn't do this year, and that's why I lost them, I think, but what I have done, any of my bigger plants that I leave outside, or like if you had the gardenias, is I would move them from the deck or where they're out in the open, and I would put them between my shrubs and the foundation of my house. And that's just extra protection. But if they're not, give them a chance, but mine are leafing out, the ones in the ground. Now, will they bloom very much? Probably not until August. And they might get a few later blooms on those because, you know, we often have the big surge in June or early July and then a few scattered ones late. So I'm hoping for scattered ones late, but I'm not expecting a big burst. Yes?
I hate to admit this, but I transplanted 3 roses a couple of days ago when it was very nice. Because I didn't look at the weather as what was going to happen. So what are my chances of these roses surviving?
Okay, she transplanted roses 3 days ago. You're fine. Roses are pretty tough. Now, what I would say, if you are a gardener and you do not have some empty pots laying around your yard, I'm shocked. Just saying. I have lots. So if they're small enough and you've done the pruning, just invert a big flower pot over them.
Okay.
Or put a cardboard box over them, and that's going to do it. And just leave it until the weather goes away and you'll be fine. Okay? If you cover plants totally with plastic, as long as there's an air pocket, so if you can make a frame, you know, that has at least 8 or 10 inches above the plant so there's not touching, that will work. The problem is if you have to leave them covered for days and days and the sun comes out, you generate too much heat underneath there and they go through this hot and cold. But you know, 2 years ago I had big pots and I covered lots of stuff and we had blankets over those and things came back. If you use sheets and blankets without that structure underneath and it rains, the weight of those sheets and blankets is going to weigh down the branches and possibly break them too.
I have
evergreen clematis that's good down to zone 6, but it looks dead as a doornail.
Well, the problem is, this year we got colder, and probably not as cold as what normal zone 6 is. We didn't get to below 0, but we got there in under such weird conditions. I would be surprised if evergreen clematis is dead. I do think you're gonna have to do some shearing. Yesterday, I saw some Carolina jessamine, which looked terrible a few weeks ago in full bloom. So, you know, again, start cutting back, and what you can do is just, like I go out and scrape, because I'm not supposed to be I'm supposed to be patient, but I'm out there scraping. I scrape the outer bark and see if there's any green. And if there's still green, I go away. If it's brown, I cut it off. And I just keep moving down. But I stopped all that till after this next week.
I think I have a dead fringe tree, but.
Really?
Yeah, it's from last summer. But I've just been waiting, because I just planted it the year before the fall. But it's got a limb coming from below the ground, and it kind of, I've been scraping it and stuff. And if that comes back, will it be?
Fringe tree is usually a pretty tough tree. Now, but if it died in the summer from something else,
And in the winter, you know what I mean? It's kind
yeah, well, I would be surprised if because it was pretty dormant, I think, by then. But if it, as long as a tree is not grafted, if you buy a tree that is grafted and it dies and it comes from below the root system, what you're gonna have is not what you planted. But I don't think fringe trees are usually grafted. So, and that's gonna be the thing, if you have trees that had major damage, you're gonna have to selectively prune because they're gonna put up a lot of branches. And if you let them all grow, you're gonna end up with a bush. So, you know, pick the strongest and straightest branch, keep everything else pruned out, and be patient and retrain it.
if that main part is there, would I just cut it off and let the new shit
Yes,
come off?
yes.
All right, thank you.
But you may end up getting more root suckers as well. And you know, the thing is that with a fringe tree, they can be grown as a single trunk tree. They can also be grown as a multi-trunk tree. So you get to pick how you want it to be. But even if you're doing the multi-trunks, I say this all the time with crepe myrtles, you want 3 or 5 trunks, no more. And the reason I like odd numbers is it looks more natural. When you go with even numbers, they tend to line up more like soldiers. Okay? How are we doing on time? We getting long?
One more question.
Okay, one more question.
Up here.
Okay.
What about bulbs as far as covering up like the amaryllis and the elephant ear that's starting to pop up?
Your elephant ears are popping up already? Woo! I would cover those if it's going to get down into the 20s. Now, amaryllis, there's several different varieties of amaryllis, but you know the ones you buy at Christmas? Those should never be winter hardy in Arkansas, but nobody told them. And they are winter hardy most of the time for us now. They plant them outside and they come back. It's possible they won't this year, we won't know, but if yours are growing and they're not the hardy amaryllis, I would add, and you know, just even if you have some, shred some junk mail, throw the junk mail around it, put some leaves around it, that just as long as you're protecting it. Peonies, a lot of peonies are up and growing, and if it gets really cold, you could zap them. So put a little extra mulch around the base of your perennials, and I think you'll be fine. So keep your fingers crossed, do some rain dances or chants that the weather's not going to be as bad as it is, and hope for the best. And welcome, new Master Gardeners. Thank you very much.
All right. Here, Janet, I want to say thank you so much. We enjoyed your talk. All right. Okay, now we will move on with our regular business meeting for today. So first up will be our officers' reports, and they're just going to stand and go through, hand the mic down the line there so we can get through that fairly quickly.
I'm doing, y'all hear me? As far as minutes, they're all were entered into the newsletter for last month's meeting and then for our executive meeting on the 6th. Does anybody have any questions, any comments about the minutes? No? All right, we'll put them into the official record. For Gail, I'm going to make a little announcement because she had to leave to go out of town. The hospitality committee spent many hours planning, creating the gifts, making table decorations, organizing the cornbread contest, and decorating the stage. This particular committee gets kudos for going above and beyond to make this a very special event. One more thing, which is really good news, we have 136 present and 4 guests.
I'm Denise, your treasurer, and the 2 reports were sent out with the Master Gardener newsletter. If you had a chance to look those over, there are a few expenses that came out of our regular bank account, and at this point, at the end of February, we had $34,003.14. There was a deposit into our depository account from some cookbook sales and a couple of expenses. And in that account, there's $7,044.16 for a total of cash funds, $41,047.30. So does anybody have any questions? I hope not. Oh. Thank you.
Again, we had 136 members here today and 4 guests. I'd like to recognize our guests. If I call your name, please stand up. Sharon Harris. Okay. Victoria Duchelle and Jennifer Duchelle. And John Davis. Also, I wanted you to be aware tomorrow there will be a survey available on Constant Contact about the state conference, State Master Gardener Conference in Russellville. It's going to ask you if you're going, if you already have a room, would you like a roommate if you don't have one, or do you need a ride? If you're driving, would you like to take someone? So please be sure to answer that so we can match people up. Thank you.
I am so excited to welcome our first-year Master Gardeners to their very first meeting. We had the rolling slide in the beginning so you could kind of start to put a face with some facts about each of them. We have 23 first-year Master Gardeners and 2 transfers. I am simply going to read their names, and if you can just stand or give a wave, just so again we can kind of get that positive reinforcement. So I have Diane Arrington, Suzanne Becker, Jennifer Blankenship, Debbie Bogle, Brett Davis, David Fuston, Shelley Germany, Beth Gillig was unable to be here today, Annette Gibson, Katie Ann Haley, Robbie Hartline, Don Henry, Laura Romilly, she's one of our transfers, Linda Riddle, Julia Rivera, Catherine Searcy, Annette Sherrill, Jean Signor, Ramona Slick, Bill Sorrells, Elaine Taylor, Rebecca Tutton, Vincent West, Cherie Wilson, and Jackie Tarleton, another transferee. So just to let membership know, we have met with the mentors and the first-year Master Gardeners to kind of help them get acclimated. Our first meeting was at the track kitchen, where they got their binders with all of our guidelines and bylaws and all that kind of stuff. We have our next meeting with the mentors and the first-year Master Gardeners scheduled for April 13th. It's going to be at 11:30 at the Transportation Depot, and I'll send a reminder out to the first-year Master Gardeners. They're going to learn all about our plant sale and how they can help. So we have a special session. If there are Master Gardeners in the audience, I know 20 2020 and 2021 and even 2022 were tough years. If you would like to join us, you are welcome to join us. Claudette will go through the play-by-play, and we'll also have various members of her committee there to sign you up in places where we still need help. So again, welcome, first-year Master Gardeners.
All right, wonderful to see the big group here today. We're growing every month, and I appreciate everybody coming. New Master Gardeners, they're going to be shadowing me over this next month. Shelley Germany went with me this week. We went out and did a Get Real class with a local school, and it was wonderful. She did great with the kids, so that was a lot of fun. So look forward to each and every one of you signing up with me to do that. We did a fruit tree pruning class yesterday at the family park. Noticed some of you turned out there, so thank you for doing that. Something with pre-emergence for your turf care. Okay, so you have not put down your pre-emergence yet for your crabgrass preventer. You need to do that. That soil temperature is reaching 55 degrees steadily, so this little freeze this weekend might help with some of that for you if you haven't done it yet, or else you're going to have to do a post-emergence. So think about that for your turf grass. Something we've got coming up here is Arkansas County Agricultural Agents Association. It's going to be held in Hot Springs this year, and that's going to be the end of March. So it's going to be here in Hot Springs, and we're going to be out at Woodland Garden Gardens. So our SIG project out there, the Southern Inspiration Garden, they're going to be going out there and getting a tour from the Master Gardeners. So that's great for all the agents to come in and see that. So.
All right, so thank you. Up to date on all of our officer reports and Luke's report. So on to unfinished business. And we're going to call Claudette up. She's going to give us the latest and greatest on the plant sale and garden show.
Latest and greatest.
Hi everyone, I'm Claudette and I'm the chair of the plant sale, and wanted to congratulate all our new Master Gardeners. And I will be meeting, as Jody mentioned, with all the new Master Gardeners next month, and I'll be giving you all the skinny on all the great things that are going to happen at this plant sale. It's a major undertaking, and it takes a whole village, and that's everybody in this room to put it together. For all the Master Gardeners, I passed out all those little bundles of cards to you guys. Please make sure you pass them out to all those strangers at Kroger, Walmart, at your church. I don't want you passing them out to people you know, because hopefully you've already passed them out to all those people. But I was at Walmart a couple days ago, and I went down 10 rows and passed out 30. And everybody, I just said, hi, I'd like to invite you to the Master Gardener plant sale. And everybody is very receptive. We are a very well-known organization, and everybody loves what we do. They don't have a problem in you handing them our little card and inviting them to our plant sale. So make sure we passed out, if all of you do your job and pass all those out, we'll have passed out 6,500 of those little cards, and that's a great way to advertise. All right. Next month, I'm going to go through this real quick because Sherry said I had about a nanosecond to tell you everything. I will have a detailed setup sheet that we will print about 150 of them. It'll go into immense detail about what we do at the plant sale, how we set it up, and do everything. So once you get that sheet, and if you still have questions, don't hesitate to give me a call, text, or email me. I'm actually one of those people that actually answers their cell phone, and I'm usually up until about 1 o'clock at night, so don't ever think that you're going to wake me up. Also, don't forget to clean out your garages for all those great trash to treasures. Any old lawnmowers, cedars, any kind of that kind of stuff, old pots, any old yard art that you have, that will all go towards our trash to treasures. And I have a little Buddha that was in my yard, and he's his paint has flaked off. I've been spray painting them, making them look good. Also, if you have more than 50 plants in your yard that you are planning on bringing to the plant sale, please make sure and call Shar. She's right back there, Shar Becker, 847-975. She's trying to hide, she can't hide. 975-6841, and if you don't have her number, it's in the roster. Also, when leaving today, don't forget to stop and get a sign for your yard from Tina Packus. She'll be out there in the hallway. And if any of you have any friends that have any kind of a business or anything that we could potentially use as a vendor, let me know and I will call them and ask them if they would like to participate in our garden show. Lastly, on Tuesday, March 21st, we will have Sign Up Genius that will come as a part of our newsletter. And for all you Master Gardeners, if you are not on Constant Contact, you need to contact your mentor, have them get you onto Constant Contact, and then you can go ahead and get into the newsletter. But the newsletter comes to you every month via Constant Contact, so you have to make sure that you've signed up for that. Every week. Every week. Little did I know. Yes. All right. Let's see. Oh, and if you have any problems in getting onto Sign Up Genius, please contact Donna Woodard, and her number is 501-951-3610. Again, she will be in the roster. And we need everybody to sign up within the next 2 weeks, because that way we'll be able to tell if we have any holes in different areas out at the plant sale. And this is going to be a full 2-day plant sale, Friday from 9 to 5 and Saturday from 9 to 5. But we will be starting to set up starting Tuesday. And for all you new Master Gardeners, especially the guys, we're going to need some heavy lifters starting Tuesday. So if you'd like to help out, believe me, you can get your 40 hours in 1 week at the plant sale. Let's see, I think that's it. Yes. Great. All right, guys. Any questions? None. Wonderful. Look forward to seeing. I know, clear as mud. I look forward to seeing you all next month on the 13th. Thank you.
All right, next up on our agenda is May Garden Tour. Carolyn Davis, are you over there?
I'm just going to stand here. I'm going to mark your calendar for May.
We can't hear you.
Hold on.
How many knows what's happening on May the 18th? Great, it's going to be our yearly garden tour, and next month we will be giving directions and maps for the tour. We will be doing 6 homes, 2 will be in Lotus Valley, 2 will be in Arbor Gate, and then the last 2 will be further down off of Carpenter Dam Road. We'll look forward to y'all coming, start at 10 o'clock and we'll go till 2 o'clock. And our last home is our Martha Dooley, that's one of our members. She's graciously, thank you Martha for that. Look forward to seeing y'all. We will get the maps next month, okay?
All right, an update now from Tricia Freeman about the state conference that we're going to host in 2024.
So, pre-conference tour has some ideas, and they're looking for more ideas. Decorations, the hospitality's working, and they've got ideas. They're looking for speakers. If you know of someone who would be interesting, give us a call. And they're looking for sites for tours, because we're going to have like 3 or 4, 6. Yeah, we're looking at 6 tours, garden tours around the city or county. So please give us your ideas. If you want to help with this conference planning, just sign up, give me a call. And even if you don't sign up for the conference committee, when the time comes, we're gonna need your bodies to come, during the conference. So, if you got ideas or if you got questions, give me a call. I have to pose.
All right. Now on to new business. Every year we recognize members who have worked, volunteered way above and beyond the call of duty. So that's what we're going to do next today. We have a little slideshow here, as well as when they call your name, your award and your shirt and pin and all of that stuff is over here with Debbie and Heidi. So if you'll just come that way and get your awards at that time.
Okay, thank you. And new Master Gardeners, you may be asking why recognition for hours. Well, first of all, this first year you're expected to have 40 hours of work and your 20 hours of education. After that, you're required to have 20 hours of work and 20 hours of education. However, we have a lot of people who go beyond that, and so this is to recognize those people who have more than those 20 hours in some format. First of all, we give a trowel. It's a little trowel. You can't really see it because it's tiny. It goes on your pin, on your badge. And we give a trowel for people who have more than 200 hours. And those people are this year, and this is people who just get the trowels. We have other recognitions as well. Stephanie Ballard, Barbara Smith, raise your arm or stand up. Barbara Smith, Barbara Gaunt, Marty Lynch, Carol Scribner, Tricia Freeman, Sheila McClarty, Loretta West, Sherry Davis, Ann Hires, Sandra Moore, Elaine Sichter, Chris St. Peter, all the way in the back, Gail McClure, Pamela Stevens, Cheryl Volpert, Mary Wittenberg, Judy Dare, Susan Coney, Wayne Lynch, Teresa Withers, Marianne Eberhardt, Joan Lambert, Lynn Johnson, and then we have... Hey, excuse me, you forgot me. You have, we give awards for other things. Oh. Okay, and years of service is not this time. That's another award. You have to come to next month's meeting.
She's just so anxious.
She can't wait to get her award. Okay, and then for our new Master Gardeners for 2022, for those who went beyond their 40 hours and reached 100 hours plus, they get a white trowel. And we have two of those members, and they were Pamela Vince and Leanne Hicks. Now we have some more awards, and it's not for years of service yet. Now, after a person reaches 5 years of 200 hours, and we have to keep up with that, you get a green shirt and a trowel. And we have 3 people who attained that this year. Linda Fleming, would you come forward, please? Scotland. Thank you. Now, for those who that was the first year. For the people who have 5 years of service, that we had one person, and that is John Eberhardt. I don't think he is here. Oh, is he here? Oh, he is here. Okay, they made it. Thanks, John. Just one. Just one. Now for those who had 10 years of 200 hours plus, and Claudette Cooper. And she will be joined by James Moore. Come on, James, step it up. This is my partner in crime.
Hold the shirt up. Sorry. You're disrupting the
Staging.
She wants it all at once.
Okay, and for the first time, we have a person who has attained 15 years of 200 hours plus, and guess who that is? And now we have one more presentation to make, and that is for people who become lifetime members. After 15 years of being an active Master Gardener, you attain a lifetime status, which means you no longer even have to work if you don't want to. So, we have 5 people this year who attained more than 200 hours who are lifetime members. Those people are Sharon Dent. Would you please come forward? Okay, sure. Rita Monson. Paula Wallace. And then Debbie Atchison. Because she took time to make all the cards that we put the trowels on, and she made the aprons for us. Thank
All right, we want to say thank you to all of you that gave of your time and your energy, your efforts. Time is priceless, so thank you for sharing yours. All right. Now we're on to the announcements. First up is Hildy. It's not on your list. There's a new surprise that Hildy's going to announce for us.
Well, this is a tough act to follow, but I'm happy to follow it because you could know, most of you, that I'm a member of County 76. That's the statewide advisory group that Janet put together in 2005 to help set guidelines for the state and do things for the entire state. And what we're doing right now is helping to foster activities for the entire state. And I work for the R project, or for German hard to say, RRR project. And our job is to recruit, recognize, and retain. And as such, we have 4 jobs, but the 3 important jobs are: number 1, A2P for your young people here in the group, or you new people here in the group. You remember, it is when? July the 18th from 6 to 8 p.m. Okay? Don't forget, put it in your calendar. Second thing we're doing is length of service, collection of information for people who have retained or earned milestone years. Those are the 5-year pins, the 10-year pins, the 15 years gold name tags that Lynn gets 1 year ahead of me. And then the other thing is we are working on the state awards. Now, Garland County has always been wonderful having state awards. And this year is no different. I've been working on the state awards the last 3 years, and I have been having a hard time keeping my mouth shut to tell you we're on the winning side again. And yesterday, the last judge gave us answers, and the official announcement will come today, this afternoon, to you and to you, but you know first. And what we have is 3 awards. 3 of them. So we are a truly special group. We have the Friends of the Master Gardeners, the individual friend, and what is his name? Hesper Horton from the Garland County Conservation District. The other one, of course, are the folks from the detention, what is it?
Detention
Center Greenhouse. What is it, Marty, tell us. Who are the folks who are leading this group, our friends? There we go.
Captain Cosgrove.
Excellent. So they are our second award. And the third, all eyes on me, all eyes paying attention, all people clapping, the Master Gardener of the Year,
special announcements. The applications for the Jean Lichtschneider Scholarship for high school seniors, and, well, I guess it doesn't have to be high school seniors, but anyway, the scholarship applications are ready and available. If you have high school seniors in your family or neighborhood, please let us get their names and we can send them an application for the scholarships. The deadline to file is April 20th, so it needs to be pretty quickly. All right, we spoke about the state conference a little bit earlier, the one in Russellville for this year, June 8th through the 10th. The registration is open now for everyone. So as I said earlier, if you are planning to attend, if you need a roommate or you want to carpool, please let us know those things and we can try to work that out together. This year, the 2023 policies and procedures, books, handbooks, and binders and so forth, they are ready to be distributed. We will be sending those out later, I think this coming week, via Constant Contact. So those will be your updates for this year. Let's see. Last but not least, again, the Elks would like us to be careful with their chairs. We've got a lot of strange situation here today. So if you want to help with the cleanup, just remember only 8 chairs tall on those little rolly things. And once those are filled, just leave the rest of the chairs right where they are. So if you want to start kind of at the back and work our way up, so we'll leave these front ones. But all the tables have to be put away. Okay? All right. Then that's not the round tables, not those over in the eating area, just these over here. Right. Okay, our next meeting next month, Thursday, April 20th, right back here. Thank you very much.